Good afternoon, sir. So these are the questions to be answered. First is, do you think that people should use social media in exercising their freedom of speech?
Yes, of course.
Next question is, what should be the limits of freedom of speech in social media?
There are several ways in expressing our freedom of speech, and there are several ways on how to communicate others for us to express what we feel. One of it is the social media, right? But exercising that freedom of speech, also the limits in which we're in, it should not, we will not be using the social media to hurt others' feeling, to bully other person, and of course we are not going to use the social media for spreading bad ideas and fake news. So in that case, you will be exercising your freedom of speech to its full extent without hitting into its negative effects.
Thank you, sir. The last question is, should we hold people accountable for misuse or abuse of social media in exercising their freedom of speech? Why or why not?
Yes, of course, we are going to make them accountable with when the time comes that they are going beyond the boundary or their limits in using the social media. So we have laws that will interact or that will relate to that certain scenario. So in that case alone, if we have that law that will address that certain problem, obviously we are going to hold those people accountable in exercising beyond their beyond the positivity of the usage or of using social media. So for example, in spreading lies and fake news, for example. So that can cause, because the use of social media is very much popular today. Most of the people are using cell phones, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Now they are listening to the social media, updating some news, and when the time comes that they will be reading some fake news or fake ideas, then there will be a time that they will be using it also to spread it to other people. So that's the case, we need to make those people accountable talaga kung sino yung gumagawa ng first hand na problem or misuse of social media. That's it.
Thank you, sir, and that's all, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon also.
So these are the questions to be answered. First is, do you think that people should use social media in exercising their freedom of speech?
Yes, I think that people should use social media in exercising freedom of speech, but they should focus more on the positive sides, specifically in spreading good vibes and in the dissemination of very
Next question is, what should be the limits of freedom of speech in social media?
Okay, so even if we say that we have freedom of speech, remember that we live in one society, one community, and when we live in a community, we already have our social norms, we have our rules and regulations, we have laws that were established by people ahead of us. So those social norms, the purpose of that is for us to live peacefully in our society. Now, even though we can actually post anything that we want on Facebook or in other social media platforms, we need to take into consideration that whatever we post can have different interpretations from different people. And so we should bear in mind the consequences of our actions if we really post anything on social media.
Last question is, should we hold people accountable for misuse or abuse of social media and exercising their freedom of speech? Why or why not?
Yes, I think that people should be made accountable if ever they really misuse or have breached their limits of the use of social media. For example, if there is a professional, for example, there is a doctor who spent years building his reputation, and then there's only one malicious post made by this certain people, this certain person, for to damage his reputation. So it is not also fair for him. So I think that the person who made that malicious post should be made accountable. And I think that Filipino lawmakers also think that way. That's why we have now our Cybercrime Act, and anything that that breach limits upon the use of social media can be filed cases to the Cybercrime Act, just like cyber libels and other cases back. Yeah.
So thank you for your answer, ma'am, and thank you for your time. That's all.